Okay. So I have never attempted this before. Having a persona on YouTube is a difficult task to have, but I'm doing this for myself and others. I don't want to have a inauthentic persona. What authentic is exactly, I'm not sure. But this specifically is going to be documenting my journey towards improvement from a very dark place in life for the past about 9 years. And it's just been something I've been dealing with for pretty much my entire life, not as severely as more recently, but sometimes we just hit a bump in the road, and that kind of catapults us into that dark place. But essentially, from August 26th, 2019, till I believe November 21st, 2019, I went to this facility in Guelph, Ontario, Canada, where it's an inpatient facility. It's known as Homewood, and the program I was in specifically, well, first off, it started in a program for 5 weeks. It was a 3-week assessment unit, and then after the 3 weeks, I wanted to continue on, so they had to keep me 2 weeks longer on that assessment unit to get me into another program. Assessment is just to kind of figure out what's going on, stabilize you. I think it was assessment and stabilization unit. So I was in a very bad state, and I had been for some time. The first 5 weeks I was still in a very bad state, and then I went into a comprehensive psychiatric care program. The basis of the program, from what I remember, is dialectical behavior therapy. And once I was out of this program, after 3 months and a week in Guelph, and it was not enjoyable, but it was something that I had needed to do for some time. So I was aware of that when I was there. The good thing about this inpatient setup is that it has both therapy and medication. So a lot of psychiatric care is based on just getting you on meds and just dosing you on meds. And that is, I get it, the system can only do so much for you. But this had both medication and also included therapy. So the therapy that I found to be most useful, and I think this is what the program was actually based off of, was the dialectical behavior therapy. And part of it is that I was very lost. I hadn't had much connection with myself for the past 9 years. And this dialectical behavior therapy, once I was finished the program, I didn't feel great. But when I got out into the real world, what had happened was I had totally turned a corner and had kind of found myself again. And I'm not there yet, but to be doing this right now, I would not have been able to come clear to being as talkative as I am right now 6 months ago. So that program, again, I didn't enjoy it per se, but it was necessary and leads me to where I am now. I'm still very lost, but as you can see, I'm a bit more open about it. I don't have part of what I was dealing with is from my own self-awareness was anxiety, depression, and I was fairly paranoid as well. So I don't know the whole program. I should maybe run through the details of the program a bit more concisely, but the DBT, it helped with seeing that my truth has truth, and that's something that I had not believed for some time. This not necessarily self-compassion, but in many ways, yes, self-compassion, that I have value and my opinion matters. Not that it is the only truth. It's an old scientific thing. They call it Hegelian, where it's you have an antithesis and you have a thesis, and well, I guess it's thesis and antithesis. So they go together. They synthesize into a synthesis. And then from there it goes further. So I'm not going to explain too much detail, but it's excellent with, I had, I guess, kind of black and white thinking, whereas this kind of allows you to see the grays a bit more clearly and be comfortable with kind of the vagaries of life in some ways. But yeah, the DBT, and there was some mindfulness stuff that's within DBT. And one thing that helped me enjoy being with myself, because if you've had anxiety before in the past, just being with myself in public would be a crippling experience. Literally every minute going by would be just hell. So in the past, and for ever since I can remember, taking a train or public transit or cars, I was okay. But if taking a 3-hour train ride, what would happen is I would just be horrified. Not horrified, but just really, really, really uncomfortable the entire ride, and time would just move extremely slowly. Every minute would just be discomfort. I would be sweating a lot, and just not enjoying being, just not enjoy being. And the train specifically is where that happened quite often. And I think that's anxiety. But one of the practices, I believe in DBT, is so what can I do to make this better? So it was an inpatient unit, but on the weekends you had opportunities to take a leave and head out back into the real world. So it was in Guelph, and I live in Toronto, and the train ride from Guelph to Toronto, it's a bit more than an hour, I believe, and that's the one thing that I was actually really looking forward to, is what can I do to make that train ride better? So I would have had about an hour. I think it was a bit more than an hour, but had to have about an hour. So I had myself do some meditation. I think that got rid of 20 minutes, probably 15. I was reading some news. I was just enjoying being on the train for a bit, I would have watched maybe a bit of a show on Netflix or Amazon Prime, and there was a show that I think I started watching at that time, Man in the High Castle, which is a very interesting show with alternate universes and stuff, so it was cool. So just finding, I even would have brought a snack onto the train, so just mindfully eating, that would have been another thing I was trying to do. So I had my train ride, and it was actually quite enjoyable. I wouldn't have had that experience of anxiety that I usually get. And at the very end, I remember when we were heading out off the train, I was chatting with a fellow and just discussing, just having a good chat, just like a few